So going back to our example of 5 supervision areas, how do we select the first household at random? Let's take a look again at one supervision area that is shown here in this slide. That is supervision area A. And we're going to use this as a model process that later on we will replicate in the rest of the supervision areas to select households. To select a household randomly in each selected community, we will assign numbers to the households in the selected communities and then pick a random number to select the house to visit to conduct our interview. So in other words, given the information we have about a particular community, we will number all the houses and then select a house using a random number. Obviously, there will be different scenarios depending on the information we have available about those households in the selected communities. And we're going to take a look at those scenarios in the next slide. But just to bring you up to your attention, for this particular example, we have supervision area A, and then in yellow, we have all the communities that have been randomly selected based on the process that we just explained in the slides before. And you will see red dots in each of these yellow communities, and those represent the number of interviews to conduct in each of the selected communities. You will see that for some of these communities, we will conduct more than one interview, and that will be the case of this particular community that is a little bit larger than the rest, in which we will conduct 3 interviews, and then another community in which we will conduct 2 interviews. If you take a look closely and carefully, if we add all the red dots, that will give us our sample size of 19, the optimal sample size when using LQAS. As mentioned before, let's take a look at the different scenarios that could happen when we are ready to assign numbers for the selection of households in those randomly selected communities. There will be mainly 3 scenarios that could happen in real-life projects. And the first one being that there is a complete household list available to us. I know that this happens rarely, but it is an option that could be possible. If that is the case, if we have a complete household list that is available from different sources, then we can assign a number to each house, and then that work is done in terms of assigning numbers. If, on the other hand, the community size is about 30 households or less, then we're going to make a household list or map with the location of each household with the help of a key informant from the community. And once we have this map, what we're going to do is assign a number to each house. Then that work is done in terms of assigning numbers to the households. The other potential scenario is if the community size is more than about 30 households. If that is the case, then we should subdivide the community into 2 to 5 sections with about the same number of households in each section. Then we're going to select one section at random. After that, we can make a house list or map with the location of each household with the help of a key informant for that particular section. And then we're going to assign a number to each house. Then we can consider the work done in terms of assigning numbers for the particular communities that have been randomly selected from the previous step before. For the purpose of a quantitative survey at the household level, A household is defined as a group of persons who share the same kitchen, or a group of persons who eat from the same cooking pot. Once all the households are numbered, what we're going to do is make use again of our random table and pick a random number. And then we're going to select the first household in the selected community. If more than one house is needed in the selected community, we can pick another random number from using our random tables to select the second household in the selected communities. This is basically how we can select houses in those communities previously selected randomly. There are other methods to pick randomly houses in those selected communities that we will discuss in our live session a week from today. Once we have selected the households to interview, then what we need to do is to select a respondent in the household that we're going to visit for interviewing. So if the type of respondent you're looking for is at the household you selected, then you are going to interview that person if, of course, that person consents. The second scenario could happen if that particular person does not live at the household you selected, or if actually lives at that household but is absent and far away, more than 30 minutes away. If any of these two scenarios happen, then you can go to the next nearest household from the front entrance to the household are at and check this next nearest household. And you're going to continue doing this process until you find the respondent type you're looking for to interview in your particular survey. There is a third scenario that could happen when selecting a respondent, and that is if the type of respondent you're looking for lives at that household, is absent, but is nearby within, let's say, 30 minutes or so. If that is the case, what we would recommend is to go find the respondent with the help of a guide from the community. If you cannot find the person in the next 30 minutes or so, then you should go to the next nearest household from the front entrance of the household of the person you cannot find. We believe it important to highlight for you the process for field work for this particular case in order to find the respondents in those households that you have previously selected. There are basically 8 specific bullets that we would like to highlight for you in this and the next slide. The first one is to meet with the community leader, so you and the interviewer team can familiarize with the location of that particular community that has been selected to interview. You should revise and or create a community map in order to have a much better understanding of where the households are located. You should also subdivide the community into sections of 30 or fewer households. You should give each section, each group of 30 or fewer households, a number. Then you can select a section using a random number. And you can perform these steps 3 to 5 if the selected section is still too large. And this happens for those particular communities that are large enough to have more than 30 households or so. You should repeat these particular steps, subdividing communities into sections of 30 or fewer households, then giving each of these sections a number, and then select a section using a random number. The last two bullets is to mainly assign numbers to households in selected sections and then select a starting household using a random number table.